Last year, I, like many other people, taped up a paper rainbow in the front window of my house. This was a fun way to add a little bit of cheer and extend it outside of my home during the year of 2020. A few days after I hung up this rainbow, I was sitting in the front room of my house on the other side of the rainbow, and I had an interesting observation about light, and that led me to draw this drawing. I titled this drawing, "Taped up a paper rainbow in my house window. Now the window lets less light inside my house, and it puts more light outside of my house." There are two kinds of light that I'm talking about here in this drawing. There is a literal light, a light being blocked by this colorful craft paper, which stops less light coming into my house, making the front room darker. And there's a metaphorical light, the metaphorical light being the light that I hope to extend outside of my house. I have been looking for light for a long time now. I have so many drawings where I was looking for light. I don't believe I knew whether I was looking for literal light or metaphorical light. And even though I knew the difference, I don't know if I knew the difference, and I assumed that they were one and the same. Literal light is external. The sun rises and sets each day. Light switches can be used to turn on and off the light as you choose, and a candle can be lit to shine light into the dark. Literal light is not white. It is made up of a rainbow of colors, as Isaac Newton discovered in the 1660s. Metaphorical light is some kind of hope or illumination on something dark or unknown. It doesn't take long, just a quick Google search, to find a scroll-worthy amount of posts or quotes or words about metaphorical light. From quotes to scriptures to sacred texts, light is used as a metaphor for hope from some kind of darkness. Metaphorical light is internal, and the good news is you can find it if you know where to look for it. When making art, you cannot depict the light without also depicting the dark. Like this drawing I did here. I rendered the illusion of an egg by observing the light and the dark. Or these figures here, who are looking for light in the dark. Representing one requires representing the other. It is the conversation between the two, and even the contradiction or the opposition of the two, that creates the conversation about light and dark. There is a word used in art terminology called chiaroscuro. Chiara meaning light, and obscuro meaning dark. Together, this word literally means, in one word, light-dark. As I see these figures now, I see these women looking for light, and I also see them wrestling with the dark. Rather than allowing the light and the dark work smoothly together, I see that they are even afraid of the dark. And not only are they afraid of the dark, I see that they are afraid of their dark. Just like light, there are two kinds of darkness that I see in these drawings. There is an external darkness and there is an internal darkness. The external darkness is why we are afraid of the dark. Do any of these phrases feel familiar to you? Don't walk down that dark alley. Lock your doors at night. Sleep with a baseball bat next to your bed just in case. All of these examples have to do with external darkness. And it is unfortunate and so sad that some people choose to take advantage of another person in the dark. Internal darkness is a beautiful thing. It is where it all begins. The lunar cycle begins not with a full moon where the moon is fully lit, but with a new moon where the moon is dark and turned into herself, not shining the sun's light. The full lunar cycle lasts just short of 30 days, and a full moon lasts just short of 3 days, which means that the moon is dark or returning to her darkness, waxing or waning 90% of the time. While the sun offers us light and helps light the way that we can go, the moon asks for trust and reminds us to turn into our internal darkness as often as we turn ourselves to the external light. Trees also begin in darkness. You can look at a tree only so long and not see her roots. Trees ask us to remember that the strength of a tree lies not in what we see above ground, but what is happening below ground in the dark. And we all began in darkness too. I drew this egg thinking about the concept of conception and about how my twin boys grew inside of me, and I grew inside of my mother and she inside of hers, and how we all began in the dark. No matter how much light shines on this egg, the interior of the egg is still dark. And this is the sacred darkness, the darkness where we all began. Carl Jung said, "How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side if I am to be whole." It has taken me a lifetime so far to understand the truth of these words. To be whole, I must have light and dark. And to add an iteration to Carl Jung's important words, I would say, to be whole is to be dark within. At first, when looking at your own internal darkness, you may feel afraid of the dark. And over time, you can learn how to discern the darkness from your darkness. Neutral and existing like the inside of this egg, waiting to be realized. And with more time, you can grow to love your own darkness and honor it, realizing this is where the sacred parts of you are, the seeds of growth and self-discovery waiting to be realized and nurtured. I learned to love my own internal darkness by making artwork. Creativity is the very act of turning inward to your own dark and then extending into the light what you find, or the act of turning to your subconscious and then turning it to the consciousness. This is why creating is so powerful. It is a vulnerable offering of somebody turning into their dark and sharing it with the world. And when experienced, it is a deeply connecting experience. As I look inward and create, some of these parts I choose to share outside of myself. And some of those parts, at least for now, I choose to still keep inside of me. And I still have so much more darkness of my own to explore and discover. In the past, when I was looking for light, I believe I was doing that with a fear-based motive, to get more and more and more light to try to get rid of and eliminate the dark. I see now that was simply not true and also not possible. I can't ask myself to be entirely light in the same way I can't ask the moon to be full more often than she is, which is only 10% of the time. I cannot ask myself to be entirely light in the same way I cannot ask a tree to be rootless and exist only above ground. I cannot ask myself to be entirely light without dismissing the darkness that I was born in. In some way, whatever way is true for you, we are all looking for light. We are looking for some hope or illumination from the darkness that we are experiencing. And to find this light, I have learned you must first look at your dark within. Just like the rainbow that I taped up in the front window of my house, I have found that the more I can be at home with my own darkness, the more I am able to extend light outside of myself. Thank you.